And I have a lot of experience with pivoting and things not being as you want them to be and things shifting. I have a kid who's unwell. I have a marriage that didn't last, and I was estranged from my very beloved parent. And yet, so I thought I had a lot of the tools already, which is what makes this season more of a surprise again, because I'm just like, wow, it just isn't really getting easier in a way. The answer that I have for when people come to me, maybe this is the way to answer the question. When people come to me and they are suffering, because I'm not afraid to talk about that, or they're telling me I now have this unexplained anxiety, but I have this fabulous life, or my kid is really, I get a lot of those too. My kid is really unwell. How are you managing it? The surprising answer for me has been take care of yourself first, which sounds so awful.
Or cliche too. We know the oxygen
Maybe
mask
cliche.
analogy, but like the depth to which you feel this in your soul is completely different.
That's a perfect way to say it.
You're listening to the Brave OT podcast with me, Carlin Nink. This podcast is all about empowering occupational therapists to step up, level up, blaze some trails, and maybe engage in a little conscious rebellion in service of our profession, our clients, our work, our businesses, and living our mission wholeheartedly. We are all about keeping it real, doing hard things, unhustling, being curious, exploring, growing through our challenges, and finding joy, fulfillment, and vitality as we do so. Really, we're OTing ourselves and each other. I hope you love this episode. If you've been listening to OT podcasts for a while, you probably know Trish Williams. She built the OTs Get Paid podcast and brand. She coached countless OT entrepreneurs, and she really blazed a lot of the trails for us early in OT entrepreneurship. And then she kind of disappeared from the public eye, that is. I definitely have been in touch with her. We live in the same city. We get together a couple times a year. And today, Trish is here on the Brave OT podcast to share what actually happened during those quiet years. It's one of the most honest conversations about capacity, family crisis, menopause, burnout, and redefining what brave really looks like. This isn't a story about burning out and bouncing back. It's about what happens when you experience physiological changes, when family crisis hits, when you can't power through anymore, and how you built a life that actually works with who you are now, not who you thought you'd be. Trish talks about everything from the shame of having a rotting cooler in her garage for months to working as a mobile OT again after thinking she'd graduated from that, to how slowing down became one of the bravest things that she's ever done. If you've been feeling like your capacity has shifted, if you're tired of trying to maintain an image that doesn't fit anymore, or you're navigating your own hard season, wondering how you're going to keep going, this conversation's for you. This episode is brought to you by Jane, a practice management software and EMR that I use to keep things running smoothly behind the scenes in Balance Works Occupational Therapy, my OT business. When I first started looking for a practice management tool, I wanted something that felt like a teammate, not just more tech to figure out. And that's why I switched to Jane. One of the things that I love the most about Jane is their support team. You get unlimited help from real humans, even on Saturdays, by phone, email, or chat at no extra cost. Like a real person actually walks through step by step and helps you figure things out. It's easy to learn about Jane in your own time, too. Jane's guide is packed with helpful tips and updates, and it's always growing. And maybe best of all, Jane has a wonderful community of practitioners. So even if you're running a solo practice, you don't have to feel like you're doing it alone. When I get a little bit stuck on what to do or how to connect something in Jane, I just go to the top of my window and I click Need Help. And then there's a button where it says, Ask me your question now. And I put in my question in simple terms, and I can almost always find the answer. If I don't find the answer, I just get on the phone and phone someone. I don't even go searching for it anymore because there's always somebody who answers the phone and just walks me through step by step what to do, way faster than if I went looking for the answer myself. If you're curious about what Jane can do for your practice, head to jane.app/demo. And if you're ready to get started, use my code Vitality for a 1-month grace period on your new account. Trish Williams in the flesh. Well, actually on Zoom. How are you?
The internet flesh. I'm good. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you so much for asking me, Carlin.
Oh, you're very welcome. I was thinking about how you and I keep in touch, but there's a lot of podcast listeners who probably listened a lot to OTs Get Paid, and they haven't seen as much of you, that you've been down a different path lately. So I thought this could be a fun way to share a little bit about your journey and what you've done to make things work for you in this season.
It's a great way. It's a great way to do it. I'm grateful to be asked. Yeah, it has been a long time. I looked, and my podcast is actually the last one that I uploaded was part 1 of something. And I was like, ooh. ... Yeah, exactly. Cliffhanger. If I was a really good producer, I'd be like, yeah, that was intentional. I expected you to come back for a whole year. But I have had people reach out, actually. People have found me on WhatsApp, or people have emailed me to kind of see what's up. So this is a good way to give people some updates.
All right. I like that. I really, really like that. As my brain processes, let's just jump in. Like, where do you want to start in terms of, by way of, we could start with, hey, this is what I'm doing now, and then here's the journey from there to here.
I think that sounds great. No, I think that sounds great. So, when we're recording this, it's September 2025, but I think there's been a whole lot of change since COVID. So I want to make sure we include that bit. So right now I am in a place I did not expect, which is great. And I am back. I don't even think I'm back to doing what I was doing before, because I'm in my car.
You're a mobile OT, right?
Yeah, exactly. Going to see kids in their homes. And I remember years and years ago, one of the SLP mentors that I had, that I actually just kept saying, will you please adopt me? And she's like, you're not Jewish. I was like, I will convert for you. And then her son got divorced. I'm like, can I just marry your son? She's like, you need to be Jewish. Anyways, I loved her. And I remember her saying to me, I have way too much water under the bridge to go into anybody's house ever again. Like, I'm never doing that. And I remember when I had the private clinic thinking, oh yeah, I've graduated from carrying and schlepping bags and having to go into people's homes. And so
a mobile OT is like an early phase. We only do that when we have to. We grow up. Is that the kind of premise that was suggested? Yeah, okay.
Exactly. And it was, you get to wear nice clothes and you don't have to worry about their house looks like or dog hair, and people come to you and all of the other things that I was buying into. And so when I started changing for reasons we'll talk about, but also when I started really looking into my soul, I realized that I really missed a lot of the clinical that I had done. And so the easiest way to get into that was to get into my car and to see kids. And the phone had never stopped ringing, really, for peds, because that's what I was in. And so I am exclusively referral only. I don't have a website. I don't see that many little people. And I really love it, which is pretty healthy and surprising, because I'm bringing up my own biases that I've challenged and decided I'm happy to eat my words.
And I don't think you ever posed anything as, well, this is the only way. And
I hope not.
You have a small business, you must grow up from here. Like, I don't think you ever did that. You were always more open, I think.
Thanks. I used to very much tend towards black and white thinking, to the point where years and years ago, I used to have Post-it notes on my mirrors that said, embrace the gray, because I was such a black and white thinker. And so sometimes I worry about what I put out into the world, whether it's too black and white. So I didn't know that. So thank you very much. So that's where I am now. And I think too, the other bit is I am not working full time. I am taking on projects and things that interest me, but there's not much that interests me. And I feel like a bit of a curmudgeon. Like, I have to use a lot of reframing, a lot of CBT. Somebody said to me, oh, so you're semi-retired. And I put my hands in front of my face and I was like, good Lord, no. Just because I only work 25 hours a week doesn't mean that I'm semi-retired. I haven't come up with a word yet that I really like. I find really what it comes down to, and then we can talk about the shifts, is my capacity changed incredibly because of family circumstances. And menopause kicked me in the butt.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of people that are texting me lately. I think in a way I went through it a little bit earlier. Like even a dear friend reached out to me the other day and she's like, I'm just not sleeping well. And I'm on like, I do yoga. I'm on every supplement known to man. I'm on hormone replacement therapy. And if I don't sleep, I can't focus. I'm like, yep, that started for me in 2019. And it's real. Very similarly to how you embrace your ADHD brain. I think in a way I have like late onset ADHD because of hormones, or I had it forever and I masked it. But like
the cognitive changes that can happen in this transition, but a lot of women do find their ADHD in
I'm
perimenopause.
shocked. Like I have a completely different brain. Like I'm a different person. And it's been really hard and really a giant struggle in a way to accept that. And then once I kind of, if you think about the Kawa model, like once I got into that river flow and just accepted it. So for example, like anything computer related, like I quite literally cannot force myself to do. Like, you know, reports that I actually love. Doing an assessment and a report is like a joy for me. And I will just sit in front of the computer and I'll be like, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. But you know what I can do? I can show up. I can easily get in my car. I can easily go to that kid's house. I can easily speak to those parents. But writing a progress note is going to kill me. And that never was my way. I know you're part of the Brave OT podcast. We can talk about those things as well. What was brave before is totally different now. Like actually getting a report done on time. I know it sounds bananas, but getting a report done on time is actually like brave for me now. It's crazy. So, and it's so extreme. It's very me. It's like, oh, you know, I'm just going to toddle along in this lane. And it's not even like I changed lane. It's like I completely changed highways or like rivers in a totally different country. I had to make that extreme a jump. But I always chose OT from the get-go because I thought it would have a lot of flexibility. And indeed,
you can change careers 1 million times with OT.
Exactly. Still paying the bills.
I love that you're bringing in rivers. So you and I have gone paddling a number of times in different bodies of water. Do you remember the time we went down the Bow River and you were having physical health stuff that was like a major disruption? And you're like, I don't know what's going on. And we were literally paddling down the river and we're talking about, hey, there's some menopause stuff that happens in this phase where even just there's hormonal changes, but our thinking changes where what were our priorities. I remember us paddling and you're like, Carlin, I'm a socialist. You shouted it across the river at me. I'm like, that's cool. She's like, who even am I? Like, I'm a brand called OTs Get Paid. And I believe in that too. But there was this disorienting, like, where is my place in the world as I start to relate to it differently through your health changes, through menopause. And we were actually literally on a river having
That's really funny. I don't remember that, but the tracks.
I remember the turn we were on when we hit that point. I was like, the breakthrough. I was like, oh, this is cool.
It's been really, and I wrote down that word that you just said, disorienting. I feel that way. Like I feel as though it has been incredibly disorienting. And I'm a very aware human with a whole lot of tools. And if it's been this much of a challenge for me, I guess that's the impetus of sharing all of this, because if it's been that much of a challenge for me, God love all of you else out there. And the other thing is too, a lot of people who listen, like statistically, we're just older.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people that I keep thinking are my age, and comparison is the thief of joy. I'll look at them and I'll be like, how are you still getting up and saying like, you know, Labor Day.
Not falling apart.
Exactly. And I'm like, oh, you're 34, which is not to say beware of being 55, but it's legitimately part of it for me.
And it starts like what I feel like our moms didn't know for sure was that perimenopause, very often start 7 to 10 years before menopause. So if the average age for menopause is like 51, where like that's a year after you have not had a period kind of thing, then backtrack that. You could be like 35 or 40 having perimenopause symptoms and just thinking, even you go to the doctor and they're like, oh, you should take an antidepressant. It's like, I don't think that's it. It's not quite depression. Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, actually, as a little addendum, because this one drove me bananas, I was in the middle of growing my clinic, Spring OT. And I remember two things happened. One is I started the motor of our like pup boat at the cottage and like the ripcord. And I thought I had torn everything in my shoulder. And then it turns out it was frozen shoulder. But then I got frozen shoulder in the other shoulder putting on a cardigan. I was like, it's my Mr. Rogers injury. I have like a cardigan injury. I was like, what the hell? And then I got plantar fasciitis in both feet, so I couldn't run anymore. And nobody, it's just now, and thank you, TikTok, that has said to me, oh, those are all signs of being perimenopausal. And I went through, oh my gosh, dry needling and all of the stuff. And nobody at that point said, maybe some HRT would be helpful. Maybe you should, right? No. At any rate. So yeah, and I don't need this to become like a menopause podcast because I want it to be relevant for many people. And that's not just it, but that's been a huge part of it.
That's been a big part of it. And what other parts do you, and are you also still doing a bit of business coaching or is it all clinical right now?
That's a great question. Yes, I am. So everything I do is really referral only. Like I don't have any active marketing out there. I guess you could say that still having the podcast out there is marketing. There's quote unquote funnels that still exist. Exactly. People call me and then they hire me. So
great.
And I can lean into, and again, it's always been if it's a good fit, but especially if it's one-on-one, it depends where they are in their business. It depends what their business is. I've definitely still doing some of that, but everything seems to still be like a surprise. In fact, literally right before we started this podcast, there was a opportunity. It's volunteering because of me being such a socialist now. And I just responded with 2 sentences. I was like, hey, I'm inquiring about this. I might be interested. And it's something in the OT world. Everything feels still a bit of a surprise for me, like what's coming down the pipe, even to the point where I usually go out east every single summer to Ontario, and I didn't this summer for the first time since I didn't go out east during COVID, but other than that, since I was born, I've always been in Muskoka or Haliburton on a lake in Ontario. And so, just a lot has shifted. And I try to stay really curious about that. And this summer has been really quiet and healthy.
Yeah. And I think there is a function of that you've adjusted to your current natural pace. And therefore you don't need a major escape, getaway, away from the phone and all the things. You don't need a drastic contrast when you're actually going with your own rhythm a bit more.
Fair. I think I did miss the water. Like it's actually a really connecting place for me. I miss seeing my family. But again, rather than say, oh, that has always been part of the plan and therefore it's a failure and therefore my summer sucked and therefore this, that, and the other, it became something I could just stay in the pocket. And in fact, I've been camping quite a bit. And then I did invite a friend. I might have said this to you too. I did invite a friend because I've been camping by myself. And I said, because she loves to camp. And I was like, hey, I have this campsite if you want to join me. And she's, oh, I'd be really interested in that. I said, yeah, but there will be no talking.
You said, bring a book.
That's it. And she goes, should I bring 2 books? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm really not going to talk to you. She was like, okay, fine. And she totally embraced it. And she was like, so what should we do for dinner? I'm like, oh, there's no we. Like, you bring your food, I'll bring my food. There's no collaboration. I really don't want to be responsible for
this. Is parallel play.
Yeah. I've had a few friends that have reached out this summer and asked me to do things. And I've been like, that sounds delightful. No, thanks. And then, but again, I'm not in freeze and I'm not hiding. It's just been very quiet. And then I did have a friend the other day, and the old Trish would have been more guilt-ridden. She was like, I really miss you. And I was like, and I you.
And that can just be.
We will just be missing each other then for a little bit. Because it's just quiet.
I am hearing so much more flexibility is the word that comes to mind. And I'm thinking in ACT language. That's
Mm.
my bias, it's my favorite tool. And so I use a lot of ACT. And you took my ACT for OT's course.
Mhm.
And I love I end up hearing little nuggets of
Mm.
you're allowing, you're flexibly like open to seeing what evolves. You're like, it's not like you've been released. There's never any plan. I am rudderless, floating and spinning around, but you're on an intentional river
Very.
that you're not pushing, striving,
Nope.
setting benchmarks and
Nope.
doing that at this
Nope.
point in
Exactly.
this season.
And I find that your planner, by the way, little pitch here, has been really helpful with that, because it's like you knew where my brain was going to be before I even did. And so all of these pieces, it's not really the planning part, it's the pieces that you've connected into the planner. Like, what is the intention for this week? What is the values, right? The values. And again, my value, here's an example. One of my important values that I've realized for my nervous system, and this is polyvagal and that's my bias, is community. Like, I have to stay in community. If I start to hide in a negative way, then I'm toast. But when you want to just be really quiet, it's really a challenge. So I've actually volunteered a lot this summer, like a lot. And I go by myself. I don't know anybody at Calgary Pride or the Folk Fest or Stampede. But it's actually a great way for this newly introverted extrovert to just be like surrounded by people. And again, I could wrangle a friend or two, but that's not the point. I think that also speaks to my age. Like, I really do want to give back. I really do. And I want to get to know parts of my community that I didn't know because I was leaving every summer. That's another one. But also, I think third, when you look at, for example, if I use your planner and I say one of my intentions or values is community, right? Then how am I going to get that? It's pretty darn easy just to show up at Calgary Pride, sell some beer tickets, laugh, right? And then go home.
Yes. Because you know what, in my own kind of journey through some similarities with my hormone shifts and life shifts and things too, I find myself in a really lonely place.
Yeah,
And love community and also don't have the energy to do anything about it.
exactly.
And so I sit in this, I don't know, like, want to do something, but I don't know what, or who, or have I disrupted all the relationships by being too tired or that sort of thing. And I love the way you had signed up for a hiking group and, volunteering. That's so smart that essentially you don't have to wait for somebody to, in your circle, to want to do the things or find a person and then ask all the people and then maintain the like social connection of that relationship. Showing up and selling beer tickets at a Pride event would be so heartening, supportive of the community and being an ally, being like all that. Like, I love that.
Yeah, exactly. The other thing that we haven't talked about as a brief aside, but maybe relevant to so many people, is we got a dog. We got a puppy because I was fostering puppies I don't need permission to do this. And then we fell in love with the most bonkers puppy of all time. Like, he's enormous. He is at puppy daycare, they call him the party animal. I'm like, yeah, he's got so much personality, but like too much. Like, he broke out of his crate again yesterday. He's gotten out of 3 crates. And he's like a mutt that sheds and he's huge. And I'm like, before this, I had a Labradoodle. Like, we had the poshiest dog of all time. And then he died. And I was like, yay, we're done. And then 10 years later, I'm like, yeah, let's bring this bananas animal into my house. And that is another value, which again I think it's actually really relevant of, did I ever in a million years think I would find myself here with this dog? Like, I know it sounds crazy. Oh, and the other thing is too, I have fallen head over heels for this dog more than any other animal we've ever had. Like, why? Why does that happen at 55? I finally get it when people are like, oh, this is my soul dog. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Dogs are cool. And no, I'm like, I will die for you. So that's been
Surprise.
Yeah. And it's been another interesting journey, which again has helped with being in community, because that dog needs to get out every gosh darn day. And he needs rivers and he needs huge giant parks. And where we live, there are a lot of them. This is not a dog you take for a leash walk and call it a day.
Yeah.
So again, and there's been a lot of time where people have said, then the hiking is what reminded me of it, because I can't do much hiking with him. He's still a baby.
Yeah.
And he can camp, but the hiking isn't as much. So then I've had to use my own value system and say, is it worth it for this dog? And it's funny because a lot of people will look at me and be like, why do you have this crazy dog? I'm like, I know, I don't know. Like on the outsides, we're not a match, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yet you have to look inside and be like, yeah, I don't know why. I can't. In fact, there's very few pros. He's expensive. He's a pain in the butt, blah, 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 blah. Like we've had hundreds of thousands of hours put into his training.
Yeah.
And I have to say no to things because he can't even stay in his crate at this point. But also then I have to check in really quietly with myself. Like there's no boxes that are being checked other than this feels like the right thing to do.
Yeah. I love it.
Yep.
He's a whole occupation in itself.
He sure is.
So if we go back in time to like you were quite active on social media, quite active in your podcast, quite active in selling your programs. And then I don't think it was a fist on the table moment, but there was a moment, a pivot moment of sorts.
Yeah.
Can you share what you're comfortable sharing about where you've shifted and what that looked like?
Yep. I think it was the combo of one of my kids is really not well. And that plus my menopause brain, it was like both my nervous system and my executive functioning systems were hijacked. And typically, if my nervous system was ever hijacked, I have a very strong brain that I can use to get through, or vice versa. And both of them, I think, got hijacked at the same time. And so that's a value. So there are two parts to it. And one is the part where I was like actively trying to help this kid. And the second is there's nothing I can do anymore. They have to help themselves. And those required two very different approaches, both of which were, what should I say? I think both of them didn't allow me to have a lot of face time anywhere else. But even like the shift from being in active helping mode to like a surrender mode required shifts in myself, right? It's very different to actively, for example, train a puppy and then just enjoy having a dog. And I think my MO has, I easily go into the, and I think a lot of us do, right? Like the fixing mode, the momming mode, the head of the household mode, the showing up mode. And so that took a lot of my time and energy. And then the surrender mode has been like weird.
Yeah, it's a big shift because you're more of a, I don't know, what I knew of you before is that sort of that driven, and you do the next thing and you do the next thing and you have a plan and you achieve your way out of this. Like you could do this, and you use your intellectual capacity and your knowledge and expertise to just keep moving this ship forward. And so when you are in a situation where you've encountered things that aren't in your control, whoa,
yeah, whole new set of skills, like whole new set of skills. And that can hit anybody at any age, right? Sure. And there's, I think a big undoing has also been, oh, I'm getting all choked up, which is fine. It's been, there's a lot of shame in that actually. And I've had to undo a lot of that for me. So it's been not only this isn't how I thought it was all going to go, which so many of us have in life, not just with a member of our family, but just with anything. So that's universal. But it was also like, and what have I put out there? And I don't super care about the Joneses. And yet I had to wrestle with that more than I expected.
The kind of image you presented to the world of how you conduct things or how things go in your life.
Exactly. Okay. And it's not just in the OT world. Like I live in a neighborhood where people really care about their homes and their houses. And I don't think I've even weeded my garden like at all, to the point where the other day I got some planters and put them outside and like it's the end of flipping August, right? Our growing season here is not long, people. Like those flowers are going to be dead pretty soon. And every time I would go in and out of the house, I would just feel full of shame. And to the point where I almost texted my next door neighbors to say, hey, we should cut the grass. Like, But even that little thing, like that was a daily practice for me to also be like, you don't have to apologize to anybody that your garden isn't weeded or weed free and that you don't have really nice planters. Like cutting the grass is legit, I think.
Yeah.
But so the fact that I didn't want to apologize and that I didn't, or pardon me, I went against wanting to apologize and also deciding that I had to find a place for it every day when I walked in and out of my own home, right? I think that's an even better example than just work,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
if that
yeah,
makes any sense.
totally. So how have you managed that? Like,
Yeah.
what do you do with that shame? How are you doing with that now?
As I wipe my nose with a Kleenex.
You are
A
telling the
lot better.
world about
Yeah,
it.
exactly. A lot better. Like a
Yeah.
whole lot better. A
Yeah.
whole lot better. But it's a daily practice. And I do think that's where age helps
Yeah.
because my neighbors actually are 35. And I'm like, oh, no, I am just too old. I'm not going to explain to you why I don't have any weeds in my, or I have weeds in my garden.
Yeah.
And I'm out here reading a book. And I can't use this excuse like, I don't have time. I have plenty of time.
Totally.
And I look at them with like little tiny kids and I'm like, you legitimately don't have time and your garden still looks amazing. Yeah. How have I been managing it? You know, again, in your planner, there are places.
I
This
swear
is
I did
legit.
not
I
find
know,
you to.
I know, but you did not. This is like fully legit. I have this in front of me. Are helpful habits and the habits that I have culled down. I'm still learning, but I've culled down which ones are like the big bang for my bucks.
Yeah.
I can read them to you if you want.
Sure. I'd love to hear it.
One of them is sing.
Mm.
So these are things that I need to do for my nervous system and my brain. Not every day, but if I get off track, I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm off
And
track.
singing for you is vagus nerve. It's community. It's like creativity. It's like stimulating all the C's. Like
Exactly.
it's brilliant.
Exactly. Thank you. The second one is any kind of like traditional Chinese medicine or yoga. And I don't mean like drinking herbs, TCM, or getting acupuncture. I've done like online stuff where I buy these crazy brushes or like these gua sha pressure points, and it's not to look cute. But
Yeah.
I do find that it actually has an effect on me. So, legitimately, even if I do one or two acupressure points a day, that would be like I get a little check mark in my box. Or yoga doesn't have to be going, and it's not hot power yoga. It's literally, did I put legs up the wall today?
Yeah.
Another one is before I got the dog, it was have I been outside? And now with the dog, that one I don't need to put down anymore. Have you been outside today?
I keep this on my desk. Actually, it was from Bronwyn,
Yes.
her booth at I went to the Australian conference. And
Yeah.
so she had these with pins on them. And I keep it on my desk as a reminder. Have you been
Yeah.
outside today?
Yeah. And I have the 1000 Hours app, which I now track because I can actually be proud of it. Whereas before it was just sadness. So we're going into the winter season here, which is much harder for me to get out. But again, the dog is going to take care of that. So then I switched that to any kind of lifting of weights, which I am failing miserably at. And that's okay.
Summer, you were working out pretty hard. I remember.
Well,
yeah.
yes, but not again, not ever. I haven't talked about a calorie in 100 years. It's mostly like all the menopause baloney, like protein and lifting weights.
Totally.
Now, I give myself a lot of grace with that because, again, yesterday I went to work and the puppy broke out. It was great again. I'm like, how the heck am I going to get to a workout when the silly puppy can't even be contained? But I know that helps a lot. I'm just looking through some of them. Okay, so there was a while where I was having to track protein again. Okay, so this is the one I think you'll find really interesting. So I have scary thing written down. And then about 2 weeks ago, I changed that to brave. I was like, duh, you're going to be the Brave OT podcast. Why are you making scary thing? And so here's what is really, I want to say 2 examples. I've been camping by myself and I've also been sleeping in my hammock with
like outside of the tent, like in bear country.
And no bug screen or anything, just me in the hammock. And I remember the first time I did that, I set the tent up and I thought, oh, I wonder when I'm going to get scared enough to get out of this hammock to go sleep in the tent. And I kept waiting and I kept waiting and it got darker and I was like, weird, I'm not scared. And then a friend of mine was like, that's so scary. And I was like, no, not really. Another example of that is where everybody says, I can't believe you would like create a brand new brand for OT entrepreneurs and put your face out everywhere and have this huge podcast and just throw yourself out there. Those things were not scary or brave to me. Funnily enough, there's little things like, what's a really good example? Oh gosh, I was thinking about this earlier. Like getting stuck on a stupid report. You know those memes in TikTok where it's, oh, there's this one person I follow on TikTok. She's hilarious. And she's like, please follow my channel where I've things, and I time how long things actually take that I've been avoiding for the last 2 years. And she like,
that was 3 minutes and a lifetime of shame and burden.
Yeah. And she's all in sweatpants. Like that took 26 minutes. Yeah.
That is awesome.
And I'm like, oh, you're speaking my language right now. Or
I have to say on that note, as you think of the next, I have a pop-up that comes up on my top right thing because my computer stopped backing up to wherever, probably because my cloud was too full. Exactly. And then, so I bought an external hard drive and I set it up, but it didn't ever set up properly. So I get a notification every morning that says it's been 537 days since you've backed up your computer. I'm like,
this is a great example.
Shoot.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure once I sit down and now that I have ChatGPT, because I've discovered ChatGPT in the last 537 days, I can be like, here's my hard drive, here's my computer, here's the notification, let's fix it. Yeah. And that will take me 3 minutes, I'm sure. But I look at it every morning. I'm like, oh my God, there's going to be a disaster where I need to go back in time in my computer because I've lost a document.
And you're the expert, but I'm actually opening my to-do list here right now to see what else is on it. Oh, yeah. Here's one. Okay. I don't know if I should share this.
Prefaced with a laugh.
It says, throw away the cooler. Okay.
Because you have to figure out, does it fit in the recycle bin? You have to have a low recycle. Does it have foam in the middle? You probably actually can't recycle it. So do you donate it?
Oh, it gets better. It gets better because it's all full of shame. Because I bought this house with the world's most expensive fridge. Don't ever get, what is it again? What's a fancy brand? Anyways, I don't know. Some kind of bajillion-dollar fridge. Yeah, no more than a third. What the heck is it? People are screaming at me. At any rate, again, this is my brain. I can't remember. Like super posh bananas fridge. I have a really nice stove. You've been to my house. They came with the house. I would buy the stove again, but the fridge, I'm like, who cares? So it's too expensive to replace. And plus it's got weird dimensions. Yeah. But it conked out. And it's the world's most expensive fridge, which costs the world's most expensive amount of money to fix. And it kept not working. So I put all the food, you know where I'm going with this now, right? I put all our food in the cooler in the dining room. Okay. And then finally the fridge got fixed and I was so mad and so ashamed because I wasn't working as hard and I wasn't making as much money and therefore I'm this failure and other people would just go to Costco and buy a fridge and figure it all out and I just got stuck. But why that one tripped me up and other things don't, I don't know. So then it was the middle of the winter and I was like, screw this. And I opened up and I was like, fudge, I forgot about all this stupid food.
So the food's still in the fridge rotting at this point.
In the cooler.
Yeah,
in the garage, and it's the summer.
Yeah,
you know. This is ridiculous. Like it's these things that I just go, you are flipping grown up,
right? Yeah.
Just throw away. And I have all these plans. I will drive by and I'll be like, okay, so there's a dumpster over there.
Yeah, could I like switch the cooler?
They don't know me, and like it's those things that if I just get it done, then I can check off brave. And I feel like just tackling a few of those.
And winter is coming, so. It's going to be a frozen block in there again soon.
I'm waiting.
And then you take it in a -20 day and you dump it into a garbage bag, into your bin, and it'll stay frozen and it'll carry on its way.
I know. Thank you for solving that.
But I would hate to see what it looks. Actually, you just dump the whole cooler in the bin.
I know. I have to throw out the whole. But then I feel like what a waste. And anyways, it's just an example of things that are on the list that I don't talk a lot about and that are shame-filled. But then I'm like, oh, I did it. So I was brave.
Yeah. Oh, do you feel like it sounds really relatable as a person with ADHD? Like so many of those, so many things feel like that there are too many steps, too many, like, do you feel like being that you didn't identify as someone who had those struggles for most of your lifetime and now seeing it, do you relate differently to the ADHD years of your life and understand a bit differently? Because it is the shame. Like the shame is the disabling part of ADHD is my experience.
Yes. And yeah, maybe. Yes. I think I've always been pretty open to what everybody's dealing with. Yeah, I'm not sure because where I go with it is that's because I'm a single parent. So my story is a little, and then I can get stuck in, I don't really anymore get stuck in the loop of, oh, it's so unfair.
Yeah.
But I do, that's where I stop myself in a loving place. I go, yeah, because other people can share that list.
Yeah.
Like you still have to figure out how to fix the garage door, and you're the only person in this house that's grocery shopping and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
So that's, I think that might be a difference. That's where I
It can
stop.
kind of
So
save you from self-flagellation a little bit.
And then again, I don't even know if it's ADHD. Like maybe I'm actually just legitimately tired.
Yeah.
And I'm still the head of this house with no support.
Yeah.
And the support is coming from somebody who's dealing with their own baloney too. Yeah, that's where I stop.
Yeah.
So it might not need a diagnosis. I might just be really burnt out as a single parent.
Totally. Understandably.
Yeah.
What, for the listeners, thinking about the people who might be listening who knew you or maybe didn't, do you have any kind of thoughts that like what you've learned in these last few years that you would love to share with people? I don't want to put pressure on you to have this big 3 words of wisdom for people, but what would you like people to know who might be encountering a struggle? Because this is the juncture where I love to help people. Is I don't want to be the person who's like, let's scale your business, let's streamline, let's
that was my
make
job.
it right. Yes, let's take care of all the efficiencies. It's more like, how do we make it something that you love, that serves your life? Like maybe life has changed since you started it, or you thought it should be. And that pivot to alignment is my jam. And what I do in Activate Vitality. But I would love to know, like, in that kind of that shift for you, what you would like other people to know that would be helpful for them when they're like, something's got to change.
I don't think I'm far enough along to really know the words of wisdom. As you know, my mom recently died, and my mom was not in my life for a very long time. And I didn't really talk about her story when she was alive because I didn't think that was fair. I already had a lot of skills for things aren't the way that you wanted them to be not in community with your parent who did a really exceptional job for a really long time with as much as she had. My brother and sister and I are great. And people constantly, when they hear the stories about my mom, who was really mentally unwell, mentally ill, they say, how the heck? That happens all the time. How the heck did she raise these great kids? It's because she was great for so much of it, right? And so much of what she could manage. And then it was just so awful. And I never really wanted to talk about that estrangement because I didn't want to have to tell my mom's story about her being so mentally ill while she was alive. But it wasn't an easy decision at all. It had to be pretty bad for me to get to that place. And it had already been about like 12 years, I think. I don't exactly remember the dates. And I have a lot of experience with pivoting and things not being as you want them to be and things shifting. I have a kid who's unwell. I have a marriage that didn't last, and I was estranged from my very beloved parent. So I thought I had a lot of the tools already, which is what makes this season more of a surprise again, because I'm just like, wow, it just isn't really getting easier in a way. The answer that I have for when people come to me, maybe this is the way to answer the question. When people come to me and they are suffering, because I'm not afraid to talk about that, or they're telling me I now have this unexplained anxiety, but I have this fabulous life, or my kid is really, I get a lot of those too. My kid is really unwell. How are you managing it? The surprising answer for me has been take care of yourself first, which sounds so awful.
Or cliche too. We know the oxygen mask
cliche.
analogy, but like the depth to which you feel this in your soul is completely different.
That's a perfect way to say it. Yeah. So at first, the first thing that switched in my head was boundaries, but I don't even think you can put up healthy boundaries like detach with love. And so much love with so much detachment. from anything, from material, from people, from whatever it is. But I don't think you can do that until you actually start filling your own soul with the things that are your values, right? So you come back down to act. And it's really the one thing that I do find interesting is when I talk to women, particularly of all ages, and they don't know what lights them up.
Yeah.
And I think I've always had the knowledge of what does, but now I have given myself more space and more time. Here's another example. I'm like reading really cheesy books. And I am ashamed. But I love
Like
them so
chick lit
much.
kind of sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. The other day I finished a book and I was in the backyard and I cried. And I was like, this is Oprah book. This isn't even a good ending, to the point where I was like, oh, author, you really botched the ending. Endings are hard. But I was still crying. I was like, Trish Williams. That's another example. And I still love to read, but all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I missed out on all these really popular genres. No more James Joyce for me. Thank you very much. And there's a very practical piece of that, which is how am I going to find the time and the space for so many?
Yeah.
And I don't always have the answer to that, but I do know that nothing else will work if I don't put those things first. And again, it's not like working out to burn calories. In fact, you'll appreciate this. I went to a workout class for weights that I hadn't been to in a very long time, like probably the winter. And it's a class I'd been to many times, and no, probably like March. And so I went in, and the second it started, I had this full body reaction. I was like, I hate this. I hate you all. Why is this music so loud? Why is that instructor yelling at me? Why is it so dark? Why are all these people 30? What the hell am I like? I was mad. And I realized I was like, oh, great. So now I don't even have a favorite workout class anymore. What happened between March and now? A lot. But also, I wonder if it's just all that time I've spent outside walking the dog beside a river. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I guess that's who I am now. Bummer.
I guess this is what 55 looks like.
That's it. I was like, oh, well. And I was angry. Like, it was way too much, but it was such a juxtaposition. I was like, I used to love this class. What has happened to me?
Yeah.
So, again, it's like you have to put yourself first to then again realize what works and what doesn't, and what fills your cup and what doesn't. Otherwise, the list just looks way too long, and you think, and then I hear a lot of women push back on that, and a lot of women pushing back on, again, the time, and then I don't even know what lights me up. How can I cull to a short list?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know, I mean, you've always been really good at that.
I know the steps, but not always good at doing it myself. So the planner was built from a habit I had developed using other planners to do exactly that, to build that insight. And I was using it with in behavioral activation with my mental health clients all the time, another type of planner. And let's look at the week and make a loose plan that's totally manageable. And which appointments do you have? What are some things you want to fit in? Let's find some little bit of space, not too much pressure, and then make a note of how it impacts you. Like, oh, so hard to get to the yoga class. Actually, I felt great after, and I slept really well. And so you make a little note about that.
Exactly.
And I was at the grocery store, but I ran into somebody and had the most meaningful conversation beside the pickles, and just jot a little note about that. And those
pickles.
And so because people often get hung up in the ACT process and I can't identify values, or I can't get the person to identify values. And I'm like, oh, take the pressure off of that. Like, they will emerge in the process of noticing, right? Of getting curious about experiences or how things didn't turn out as expected or turned out a little differently, or where I keep getting triggered on the same thing that is often a value that's getting stepped on. And so I do try to do that in the planner, where every 2 weeks there's the reflection pages. I never do them.
Yeah, I don't do that either.
And they're really powerful.
They are. But you know what? I think I actually do that in my brain. Like, I think I spend a lot of time doing that in my brain. And this is I don't have a great segue for this. It's going to sound like a little bit of a jump. But as you were talking, I realized the third thing, which is actually the biggest. And I think it's the biggest challenge for my friends and people that I work with. And the number one trigger for me has been going too fast. Like, I have to be really slow, like molasses slow. Now, I have the privilege of doing that because happily I'm charging a lot of money. I don't have to see a lot of kids, and the bills are getting paid. Additionally, I am choosing to be unpartnered right now, and my kids are older, so I don't have that day to day, right? Like, one of my kids is in school and was like complaining about not having the GPA that they want to have for getting into this next program. And I was like, yeah, sucks to be you. What are you going to do about that? I was like, oh, that's a different answer. I mean, I would always say that, but in my body, I'd be like, oh my God, blah, 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 blah. And now I was like, yeah, I guess you're going to have to figure that out. So I know that's not a place where a lot of people are, but even walking too fast or even being late, I can't not do it. It will trigger me. It is actually my biggest trigger. So I would almost say that, like having to slow down, then finding something where I can enjoy myself. And again, it might literally just be having a laugh at somebody else's puppy as they're playing in the river with my puppy.
Yeah.
And then the third is like boundaries, boundaries. Those have been the biggest helps for me.
That's great. Super helpful. And I just want to acknowledge how brave it is to do that big shift.
Yeah.
Your life called you to it
Yeah.
and you listened, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people try to power through.
Oh, yeah.
And there comes a point where your body says you can't.
Yeah.
It'll shut down.
I feel like those two things almost happen at the same time. I don't think because I'm really struggling with that word burnout. And I guess technically I check all the boxes, but I don't know if it was shame or I just refused to admit burnout. And also it felt, again, a cliche. I actually think this is way more than burnout because it was actually life, right? It wasn't just that I like worked so hard and it wasn't that. It was like, yeah, it just pounded me in a way that I wasn't expecting. So I agree. That pivot, like you said, or that tipping point was probably the bravest thing I've done in a really long time. Yeah. And I'm grateful for that. And again, I guess that's in a way why I don't sweat the small stuff so much anymore either. Because I'm like, whatever, it'll work out for now. Yeah, it sucks for now. And I feel like the habits that I mentioned in the tools that I just talked about, if I've got those things in alignment and in play, I can pretty much carry out with a really great life. It looks really different. And that's okay.
When you said that little bit about I'm not sweating the small stuff because it'll work out, I came across something recently that I'm in a kind of like spiritually oriented business coaching program as a pretty low cost, but I really enjoy the spin on it a little bit. And so somebody spoke about her shift from hope to faith. And I was like, oh,
you sent me that text.
Did I? Okay.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, keep going because you sent it to me. And then I sent it to one of my clients who's actually very religious. Sorry, I'm interrupting you. I'm like telling the story before anybody has heard what the quote was. But I actually sent it to one of the clients that I have, the moms, who's very religious. And then I sent it, well, probably my sister. My sister's my person. So yeah, keep going. I love the ripple.
I love
I know. I love this one. It's a really good one.
Because here I am in some coaching call with somebody, I don't even know where that person was kind of thing, and share this thing. But the idea of like, I often will say, well, I'm hopeful that like I'm optimistic, I'm curious. I'm always trying to leave an open end for my clients, both in coaching and in my mental health practice, right? Leave an opening to possibility that isn't necessarily the worst case scenario. Let's see how it goes. But I really appreciate that because I think in my own perspective on how life works out, I do have a sense that things do eventually work out.
Yeah.
We can go through the shit for a long time, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But like eventually you're not anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I do have faith in that. And it's not religious.
Yeah.
I trust it.
Yeah,
like I trust it. Is it trusting the universe? Is it spiritual?
I believe so.
It's somewhere in there. Yeah.
And again, like if I talk too much about this, I'm going to really cry and I really don't want to. But the fact that my kid is so unwell and the fact that my mom is so gone and the fact that I'm still doing all of this by myself and I'm still experiencing great moments of joy and peace and the bills are still getting paid and I still feel loved and I still like, I don't know how that happens, right? I mean, I do. I've just tried to outlay a lot of it of how it happened for me. But part of it was that I was just so stubborn. I was not going down with that ship. I was like, oh, hell no. I'm not going to be depressed I'm not suggesting that people's mental illness can just be like thought of, but I was like, I will not be in bed. I will not be in bed over this. I will not get so anxious that I have to go inpatient or whatever the case may be. And if I had to, right? But I just wasn't, I was determined that the reaction was not going to be based on the stimulus, right? I decided that my reaction was going to be different from the stimulus. And like, okay, let's just defy the laws of physics, right? Yeah. And I think once I decided that and then opted into a lot of tools, and then I have great amounts of grief. And I'm also really happy. I think that's why my friends reached out and they're like, we're worried that you're quiet. I'm like, oh no, I'm fine. Like, I'm better than fine. I'm actually really happy. And the fact that I can say this, especially with my child, who I worry for greatly, there has to be faith in that. There has to be hope. So I actually really agree with you. And is that aging? Is that, I don't know what that is.
It's wisdom.
Yeah, that's somebody said that. Actually, I've had a lot. Here's interesting. I've had a lot of people, and I've never had people call me wise. And I think in the last couple of months, that's what people have said to me, really, to my face. They're like, you're so wise. And at first, I didn't want that mantle. And I'm like, no, I will take that. I have worked very hard for that mantle. So, yeah. And I think that's a really nice place to live from, right? Like, truly, I keep thinking, let's take bills, let's take money, for example. Like, when am I going to need that website? Because when is that going to start drying up?
Yeah.
Or as I had some physical health scares, and happily, I seem to be on the better side of it right now. But what happens if a terrible diagnosis comes? And I just don't spend a lot of time thinking about that because of faith and hope.
Yeah. I so appreciate you being willing to share all of this and share, like, there's this side of you that I've known in the last couple of years, really.
Mhm.
Like, I knew you before the last couple of years.
Mhm.
I didn't know this layered version of you. And it is really, I really appreciate you being willing to come and share that. And I relate so much more to this, you in this season.
Yeah, I know you do.
And yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. Again, I think mostly it was, I kept waiting to be able to control my own narrative, and that never really happened. And then additionally, I'm very sensitive to me. I want to be able to explain my pieces without being disrespectful
Yeah.
to the other people. That's a really tricky one. So I never felt like I was trying to pull the wool over people's eyes. And at the same token, I also felt as though, yeah, and I guess I needed some more distance from it to be able to really be able to share. I mean, look, I'm already super emotional and I've already got a lot of distance from it, right? Can you imagine if I was in the middle of all of it? So thanks. Yeah. And I hope, again, suffering and grief and pain and all of these things that we're talking about, from my hope and faith perspective, there's no point in going through it to be in a vacuum and hope, like, really truly hopefully that it's helpful to other people. Because talking on this level, I'm happy to do with my closest confidants, but if it can reach other people and then they just don't feel as alone,
Yeah.
that brings me great peace.
Yeah.
Thanks, miss.
You're welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do have 3 questions, or a couple questions I always ask people at the end. Do you have a minute for those?
Sure do.
Okay.
Just don't rush me because that'll trigger me. Go slow, remember?
All right. So, what does being brave mean to you?
Yeah, I think I answered that in the interview, which is like doing the things that I label as scary and nobody else has to understand that they're scary, and just working with the shame to just keep going. That's what being brave is for me. Not sleeping in bear country in an open hammock, which actually sounds ridiculous as I say it out loud, but just embrace what is scary to you. You don't have to label it or even understand it, and just keep trying.
And I like how you actually physically changed the label in your planner from
I did.
do a scary thing to do a brave
I know.
thing when it occurred to you that
I know. When you sent me the thing for the podcast is when I was like, the brave, I was like, wait a second. Really? I was like, why are you calling this scary, you silly? Change it to
it has to be scary to be brave. It's both.
Yeah.
How would you like to see OTs be a little bit more brave?
Yeah, that's a biggie. The things that I look at right now that drive me crazy are OTs that still feel like they're asking questions based on being stuck in the system. And I know that's not easy. And I hate, like, I see a post and it says, oh, the school asked me how much to charge. And I feel like throwing my pen up in the air. I'm like, okay, I'm the OTs Get Paid podcast girl. But at the same token, certain countries are more challenging to get out of the system for sure. But I just don't think that's the right question anymore. And I know there's a whole lot of like white cis privilege for me being able to sit there and be like, ask a different question, start getting paid outside the system, blah, 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 blah. But if I'm being honest, that's what it is.
Yeah, people being more limited by the systems than they need to be because they
Yeah.
can't see a way to
Yeah.
work differently.
Thank you. Your
Yeah.
paraphrasing is amazing. You can just, I will hire you and I'll be like, here's what I say, but Carlin will translate. Carlin's my more clear, fluent translator.
I see the same posts and they tick me off. And sometimes I write cheeky responses because I'm like, oh my God, stop.
Yeah. And I just think it in my brain and then I go,
Good for you.
Yeah.
Better boundaries.
Yeah. But I love them. Detach with love, detach with love.
And who would you like? So here's an opportunity to reach some people who may want to reach out for you. Oh, Trisha's, maybe she could help me. Who would you like to work with at this point and how can they reach you?
That's a great question. Yeah, interestingly.
And it's okay to say, hey, actually, I'm super picky. I'm probably not going to work with you.
Well, after this interview, you're either like, oh my gosh, I must call Trish, or it's okay, whatevs, moving on. Let's listen to Amy Poehler because that was really depressing. Oh, by the way, can I just say something? Have you listened to the Amy Poehler podcast?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so guess what? One of my main things that I love about her is that she has decided that this podcast is literally going to be B- work.
Nice. Yes, I love that.
Right? Like,
I love that.
yes.
I completely built like a good enoughness into my brand so that it's relatable, but also so it's achievable because I can't do perfection. Like if I keep striving for that, nothing would ever go else.
Yeah.
I love the
I know.
labeling.
And if you are into podcasts, the even better thing is that she was married to Will Arnett, and Will Arnett is a part of the Smart List podcast. And that's one of the number one podcasts in the world right now. I know definitely in North America. And they made bajillions off of just showing up. Like the whole premise is somebody brings in a guest and it's a surprise and they don't have to prep any questions. And like they show up, like literally, they've made majillions off of this. And so I love that, like, Amy Poehler, like the ex-wife, is like, guess what, women, and it's excellent. Like it's beyond excellent. Okay, why that segue has to mean something. Why did I bring that up when I was asking? I think it's if you're like kind of relating to all of this and you're trying to grow a business. So interestingly, the people that have reached out to me are established in business. There's no point in hiring me if you're starting to figure it out. Like nothing. That does nothing for you. You need a lot of traction in order to have value by coming to me. And then it actually, I guess it's people similar to me that are like, hey, I've had this cancer diagnosis, or hey, I'm getting divorced, or hey, I'm struggling with this with my children, or hey, there's something very unexpected, like my business partner decided to quit, or they need a lot of personalized attention to their situation. And they don't want to be in a group, and they usually come very well prepared. Like, here's all the pieces. And
they've got this kind of fairly sizable business that they need to shift systems. They need to shift like frameworks. They need to shift the whole way they're doing things.
Yeah. Or they want eyes on it. And they're like, I have 10 ideas. Which ones do you think I should do?
Yeah.
That is actually the people that I am most aligned with. And then somebody else, because I have a typical way of paying me, right? And somebody else was like, or a typical way to show up. We do this many sessions and da 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 da. And she said, okay, that's not going to work for me. I want to do this many and then take a long break. And I was like, yeah, sure, no problem.
Yeah, we split them up. Yep, totally.
Precisely. It's also people that also have a clear outcome of what they want. And we do spend a lot of time talking about, therefore, what will the goals be, right? So how we can measure it. So after all of this, you just go, bleh. And then I come up with, okay, we're going to work on this and we're going to work on this so that it'll look like this. And they're like, super. That's really what's working. And you know what? It's also very much in alignment with the little people that are coming to me. Like I have really high functioning parents with a lot of the wild childs. And they're not just 3 or 4 or 5-year-olds that are having meltdowns. They're like, there's some real challenges. And again, I guess it's ACT because I don't get scared by that. Like I will literally, I don't think this is breaking any confidence. There's this one kid that I referred to in my home as the chicken nugget kid because he literally was sitting on the back of his couch naked with undies on his head, playing an instrument yelling chicken nugget, chicken nugget, chicken
I
nugget,
love
chicken
that.
nugget. And that does not faze me at all. And the parents are melting.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, no, that's cool. And again, I might, because why? Because I'm not in the system and I know that you're hiring me for an outcome and I get really clear on what the outcomes are going to look like and how long it might take. Plus I do things faster. Remember we talked about not billing
Yeah.
hourly because I do things faster.
Yep.
I'm like, other people would run screaming from this kid and it's going to take X amount of time. But it's also like parents that are very engaged.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's that level of engagement. But am I talking about the same things you're talking about in business? No, but we have that vernacular anyways. They're coming to
Yeah.
me because at this point they're looking for more of the systems or the marketing or the frameworks as another big one. Where should we
Yeah.
go? Does that make
I
sense?
love
Have I
that. Yeah, totally.
need to summarize that for me, translator?
I think that those are some key differences. I remember there being a time where you were like, Carlin, you should see all the people who are starting up because I'm
Yeah,
not seeing the people who are starting up. I was like, I actually don't want to see the
I
people who are
remember.
starting up either.
I remember that.
So in that place, I really enjoy also mid-career, mid-business, somebody in that stage, but more solo practitioner
Yeah.
who's looking for more alignment. Just
Yeah.
it's probably more internal work to facilitate those external shifts or internal awareness to go, oh, actually, I can make this like this sweet little boutique business that I love Mondays.
Exactly.
And so that we could totally do that. But it's like actually being internally ready to see that's okay, give themselves permission, give themselves the flexibility to change the path, that sort of thing. And sure, we do some businessy things, but that's not my strength is the inside stuff, as you know.
Exactly.
Love it. There's lots of work to go around.
There sure is.
How can people reach you? Should we put just your
Yeah.
website in the show notes?
You know what? I don't even think my website is up and working right now. I decided to put it on a hold to see if it made any difference in people connecting with me. And people still connect with me. Let's do email, Trish at trishwilliamsconsulting.ca.
Perfect.
And you can listen to the podcast too. That'll give you an
Yeah.
idea of what I talk about and what I do. But I think that's the easiest way. Because again, I was like, do I actually need this front facing if the right number of people are calling me? And it was a smart business decision. And you know what? Putting it on hold was actually a really nice step down as opposed to like erase. Erase would have felt like too big, right?
Yeah.
So it was a nice little experiment.
I think
So
these are
that's
such
the
good
best way.
stories for people too. There's Lindsay Bristow.
Sure do.
So I remember she's been in the Activate Vitality program. She was for a long time. And
Yeah.
and I remember I always like using her examples. I'll say, remember when Lizzie was doing everything she could to stop the referrals? Like, how did they find me? Like, I've taken down my website, I've told all my referral sources, like they keep finding me. And whereas like some people would be like, have a busy business with a waiting list and being like, okay, I should really start some social media. And I'm like, why? Do not put that pressure on your what is the function? What's the purpose of that? If like there may be a time where you're like, please stop calling because like I know for Lindsay at times she's and then the perfect person calls me with their story and I'm like, I don't have room, but okay.
Yeah, it's true. I actually will say that about work and it's ending on the woo statement, but why not? And I don't have an explanation for it, but this is where faith and hope comes. I have dream clients right now. Like dream clients. My house, and I didn't tell many people, like we didn't have a big obituary. We're having a very quiet funeral for my mom. My mom wasn't in my life, so I didn't really talk about my mom. I would say my mom was gone because she was. People just assumed she was dead, which was okay. But the people who knew the most about it, other than close friends, were my clients because I actually had to say, oh, my mom's died. And the house was filled with flowers, Carlin. Filled with flower. And these were my clients.
Oh.
And here's another example of a really scary, shameful thing. I unfortunately decided to see a client like the day after my mom died. And it was an assessment, and I love assessments. But then guess what happened? The report got stuck in grief land, and they were emailing me. And again, I am very willing to share these examples because you would never think somebody like me would do this. And I just didn't email them back. And I felt like a piece of garbage. So when I finally did email them back after a couple of weeks, I was just really honest. And I was like, listen, I made a huge mistake. I shouldn't have come and seen you. And I just couldn't answer an email. And I should have put in, and I didn't. And that's on me. And that's my error. So please accept my apology. Here's how I'm going to fix it. First of all, I'm not going to charge you because that would be silly. Second of all, here's the report. Too much shame. And also, okay. And they send me flowers too. Come on. I don't know how these incredible people have found me. Business coaching clients as well. So yeah, I don't get it. And if it's not broke, I ain't going to fix it at this point because they find their way. Why do you think that is? You're smarter than me in this stuff. You tell me.
I remember when you were first starting to take on some kids. And so I remember having conversations about it. And I know as a person who has a business, like especially a local business in Calgary, right? There's so many people who need peds support. And so I'm like, great. Like I'm always like, people call me all the time for peds and I don't list anything that I don't see kids. Like I see adults, mental health, right? But could you see my 6-year-old autistic kid? And I'm like, no, like I don't even have that skill set. Or like I get a few calls a week. And so I remember being excited that you were somebody who was building a practice and you had experience, like not only because people call and they're like, I've called every OT in the province and nobody can see my kid, or their waiting lists are more than a year, or they don't phone me back or email me back. And not only to have someone who's taking clients, but somebody with a ton of experience is pretty cool. And so I remember saying to you when we were on a hike, I'm like, okay, but tell me exactly who your ideal client is, because I don't want to send you everybody who calls me. And so I can do a little screen so that I can know. And you're like, okay, cool. And for about 10 minutes, you described your favorite people to work with. And I was like, that's great. And so I don't know, is that what you put out into the world, or do those people tell more people who are in similar situations? But yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, no, I don't. Yes, if I was looking at it from a marketing lens, that's exactly what's happening. And yet I just have to feel like the universe has my back right now.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. And again, it's maybe that's part of the slowing down bit too, which, as I said earlier, if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Yeah.
The old part of me keeps thinking like, I just need a flipping website, or will the phone ring again, or da-da-da. And I'm like, all right, you'll know when that time comes.
We will.
But it's not today. And I'm really grateful for that.
I think the universe has your back and it meets you in action, like that you're willing to receive. Maybe that's the kind of thing that you embed. And again, I totally get going through seasons where bed is the place and not as much stuff's going to find you there. Right. So where you're in a state of openness and readiness to receive, that sense of the universe having your back has that capacity. And actually, I can remember doing like a YouTube video on manifesting a while ago, because I was so irritated that people would talk about manifesting a couple of years ago. It's just like the biggest thing. You just need to manifest that. And me and a girlfriend often are like, yeah, totally manifested that. But like when you actually look into it, it is this notion of there are opportunities floating by in the world. And if you're actively pursuing doing some stuff and being intentional about your actions, you can catch some of those. It's not a passive receipt of the goodness of the world.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think it's saying yes to a lot of things and again being curious. One of my kids talks a lot about manifesting it and is very negative.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, but I've helped them reframe their thinking, because again, I think they think it's just some magical passive thing. I'm like, oh no, what have you said yes to? What are you staying curious about? And I have mostly always been able to maintain that, which I'm very grateful for.
Love it. Thank you, Trish, for being here.
Thanks, friend.
I'm so grateful Trish said yes to this conversation. There's something profound about hearing someone you look up to admit that the cooler has been sitting in their garage for months, or that getting a report done on time is now their version of brave. What Trish is living right now, this slower, more intentional, deeply aligned life, doesn't quite look as planned, but watching her navigate it with such honesty, wisdom, and faith that it will all work out, that's the kind of story that gives the rest of us permission to stop pretending we have it all together. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to continue the conversation in the Brave OT Facebook group. Come share what brave looks like for you these days, whether that's launching something big or finally dealing with that thing you've been avoiding. And if you found this helpful, please take a minute to rate and review the podcast and share it with another OT who might need to hear Trish's story. Sometimes knowing we're not alone in the messy middle is the most helpful thing. Thanks for listening, and remember, you get to decide what brave looks like in your season. As always, be brave, OTs.